Okay, so I'm checking work. I'm checking the work of my nephew. Oh, my nephews, you know, they're pain in my ass nephews sometimes. And I'll show you what they've done, and I'll show you what they need to do. And they're backwards, reverse. So this here, I don't know, I'm gonna get onto this thing here a little bit later today, or maybe even tomorrow. I got to take that tin off the top there, and we're gonna put bars on here, heat that up with fire, beat it back down into position, and on the inside I'm going to weld hooks, and they come along, and I'm going to pull the inside of this baler chamber back together because it's not where it belongs. It actually bowed the tin in. I don't think it actually bowed these out, it just bent that part up. If I beat that down and that tin there has not straightened out, I actually have to pound it back in, so I'm thinking ahead of myself here, I'm wrong. But anyways, they had them do this work here, and these things need to be pushed all the way in, and they've got them back out again like a bunch of boneheads. So I have to loosen those up, or get them to loosen them up and push them back the 1.5 inches that it needs to be closer to the holdback fingers that are there, and that will make life a lot easier for everyone involved. Yeah, so there you go. And there's those shark fins that I put in there, or I had Cody put in there. Those are to force the hay that's coming up through here. I know I've said this 100 times. They force that into the holdback fingers, and then when it trips, the floor plate trips, the holdback fingers go out of the way. These forks go down in, and they force that hay right up to the top of the bale. We had them, or he had them in the wrong spot. He had them down here too far, and the hay was actually coming up past, and then feeding the bottom of the bale. Into the bottom of the bale chamber, which was no good. And yesterday I had them fix those, or the day before yesterday I think they fixed those, moved them, and now I have to get them to loosen those up and beat them forward so that they're as close to the holdback fingers as possible. But this baler is really a rolling wreck that I wish I never bought it personally. It is one of these things that was so neglected, and by the time I do get it fixed, it should be okay and running good. But there's just these little things, and inexperienced operators cause bigger problems for themselves than not. So, but in the end, it'll all be good. I'll get it straightened out, and it should be going to the field and baling good rock solid bales like it's supposed to. Maybe I can get a better perspective as to what's going on here. You see how that bolt hole is there? I don't know if you can see it. Let me get in there. There's this light is not helping me. See that bolt hole? That bolt broke out of there, and that allowed the rails to flex and turn and move, and the bearings themselves on the plunger, every time it stroked, there's more pressure at the bottom of the plunger than there was at the top. It wasn't even, and it caused the roller to actually hammer that rail upwards and outward. It actually didn't come out, it just railed it upwards. So a little bit outward. You can see where you can see a little bit of a peeling paint. And so what I'm going to do is there's tin up there. I can take that tin off, and I can get a bar or a piece of steel in there, and I can just hammer that back down. It hammered up, so it should hammer back down, and then I'm going to replace the rollers. Let me get my rollers here. I have brand new rollers and bearings because those were worn, and that's what really caused that, the wear on the roller itself. You can look at this thing and it's kind of rounded. Well, the old ones were no longer rounded. They were flat and worn from years of use, and absolutely no lubrication or whatnot. And obviously there were problems with the baler. It was severely out of time, which was causing the same issues that I have right now. And I guess I missed it when I was working on it this spring, and Cody just kept going. His inexperience has caused a few problems, but not that it's not his fault. He just doesn't have the experience, and he's gaining experience now. So we'll get this thing straightened out. I'm going to put these rails in. Joe actually straightened them out. These are the wear bars that actually the rollers roll on. This is the outer one. There's no wear on these, very little to none on these particular parts. This is the piece, this is the strength of that rail right here. Now, this rail has been pounded and pounded, and when it broke that upper bolt there, once it broke that bolt, this one right here, it allowed this to just slip in and pound and pound and pound when that plunger comes to its full force. So it's just like a little hammer. Now maybe that little hammer could only go that far, but once it got to this far, it hammered harder. When it got to that place, then like that, there was a gap like that in there, and it was just beating on it. So that happened very quickly from the time, I'd say within 20 bales, less than 20 bales, 15 bales, it did all that damage in there by pounding on that once those bolts broke it broke both sides. So I imagine when one broke off, it allowed it to just keep right on banging away. And then it caused the other side to go and caused that one to go. So, it's just going to be some heat, beat, and repeat work going on here, which shouldn't be too much. Imagine good heavy 8-pound sledgehammer, 12-pound sledgehammer, and we should be able to bang that thing right back down into place and bolt it up. I'm going to shim it and sure it up. I do have some thin shims that I can put in there to take up the slat, because this isn't even quarter, it might be quarter-inch steel. I'm thinking 3/16 quarter-inch. Let's see, 3/16. It isn't 3/16. 2/16 is eighth. Yeah, 3/16. It's not quarter. So I'm going to beat that up, get that back into place, and we should be able to get this baler back in the field here by next week. Just because I got too much hay to make right now. And I'm trying to get a phone call into Timothy to get a mower back up here.